I was at the point through my dark times, I was at the point because I didn't accept it. I didn't really speak to people. I thought, I'll take it on my shoulders. That's it. It's fine. And it hit me one day, and I pulled over in a lay-by. I was going to leave my car and just disappear. That was my plan. I remember I was going to walk to the train station, jump on a train to anywhere and just vanish. That's it. I was gone. But I sat down. I had a good cry, and it's okay to cry. It really is.
Tell them again.
And I had this realization that I can't do that to my kids. I can't disappear. And it was that I have a responsibility here. And it was that moment I gave my head a wobble, and I was like, right, sleeves up, I've got it. Let's go. And then I reached out. Then I started opening up.
You're listening to Journey to Fatherhood, a podcast that inspires and equips men to becoming more intentional and feeling more supported on the journey to fatherhood. Why wait to become a father before learning how to be a good one? My name is Chinedum Owenaya, a young man also on his journey with a desire to help men become great fathers despite their past personal experiences. I'll be sitting with different guests to bring you great value, sharing their knowledge and their experiences as we all embark on this amazing journey. This podcast, though targeted towards men, ladies, you will also gain great value from the conversations. Now, without further ado, let the journey begin. Hi guys, welcome to Journey to Fatherhood once again. Today we have an amazing guest, and it was Father's Day last weekend, and it's amazing to have a father here that I truly believe is a phenomenal father. I'm just going to tell you why later on, and we're going to discuss about it. But today we have Ady, and he's here on the podcast because I was just looking for specific people that I felt that their story needs to be heard and they could share so much value to people listening. Ady is a co-host of a podcast called Nobody Cares About Dad. However, besides that, he still does a lot of work in terms of his full-time, as well as making sure that, raising a child is another full-time job. So he's doing more than one full-time career in terms of being a father, as well as doing other things. And today, in light of everything that's happened with fatherhood, I wanted to bring Ady here to talk more about his personal experience, his journey as a single parent father, and also his journey from childhood to manhood to fatherhood, because I believe there's so much to be learned from that. Without further ado, Ady, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. I know all of this was a bit short notice in terms of organizing it, but I was so happy you were able to make it to the conversation today. And I guess the first question I want to make sure that we have an answer for the audience is, who is Ady? I know it sounds vague, but tell us a bit more about Ady. How do you introduce yourself or describe yourself?
6'3", red. No,
definitely taller than me right there, straight away.
Who's Ady? So, like you said, I'm I work full time. I'm a dad. That is, like you said, it's more than a full-time job. Yeah. If only we got paid overtime for that, it'd be amazing.
Wealthy.
I'm someone that I've had to grow up quite quickly from a young age. I'm 35 now. Okay. 36 in a few weeks. But in terms of taking a lot of responsibility on as a young, very young sort of child, I've got two siblings. I've got two younger sisters. So I've always been somebody who has taken a lot on. So I've had to go to the gym and get these shoulders broader and broader and broader because I have to take it on.
Okay.
But it's just, so I was in the military.
Wow.
Served
How
in the
many years
military
did you serve?
for just under 9 years. And then left the military and went to work in the Middle East I was there for 4 months, just over. And then sort of came back. My partner at the time fell pregnant. I wanted to be around for pregnancy, so experienced all that, the highs and lows.
In the hospital, in the birth room, you were in the middle of it all.
Yeah,
Courage.
it was.
That requires a lot of courage, man.
We had a water birth.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted to be around for that, so I chose to make sure I was back in the UK. And then took on this new this new role as a sort of full-time parent, kind of. When I met my partner, she had a 6-week-old baby.
Okay.
So from a previous relationship, so very new tiny little human. So I had to adapt my life very quick. Again, growing up, I've always seemed to take on more, and sort of just take it in my stride. It's the only way you can do it. It's the only way.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot there, and we're gonna unpack a lot of that. I think for me, it's interesting because you mentioned something just to confirm, you're the oldest amongst your siblings, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've got 2 younger sisters.
2 younger sisters, yeah. There's so 2 years between my first sister and then 4 years between my second. So 2 years between us all.
Okay. So how has that been? Because I'm sure that as the older, you said it right there, having to grow up very quickly. How was it childhood for you in terms of growing up with the father in the house and things like that?
Yeah, so to be honest, my mum was my dad as well. I had a dad, didn't really know him. He wasn't around long. From what I did know, he was very abusive to my mother. It wasn't a nice environment at all.
I see. And
my mum sort of sheltered us from that as much as she could. And like I said, I had 2 younger sisters. So I remember I was 7 years old, I believe. I think it was 7 years old, and I remember seeing this drama unfold with, I say dad, but that's a title somebody should earn, so we'll go with sperm donor. So he was there, being abusive to my mother, and I just remember taking my sisters off into another room and phoning the police, and I was 7 years old. So growing up quite quick. That was out of the way. He was out of the way then, so I sort of took on the man of the house kind of role.
Okay.
I'm a mummy's boy at heart, and I still am. And
listen, there's no shame in saying it. There's nothing wrong.
See, my mum, but we'll get onto it later. But apart from my stepdad, my mum was and is my role model, and she always made sure we were safe and we were happy. We grew up. So we grew up in sort of the 80s and 90s, and it was, we didn't have the best of everything. That was fine, because what we did have was my mum's love for each other, and my mum always did her best, and you can't ask any more of that. At all. So it was never these sort of jealous kids of, they've got all this fancy stuff, our friends have got this. We were happy and content with what we had because we valued it. So, from that young age, it was always sort of me, my sisters, and my mum.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, because what you mentioned there, unfortunately, is the same case with a lot of young people growing up where their fathers aren't present and they have to take up an almost man of the house role at such an early age. How was that experience for you? Because from as early as, I'm guessing this started 7+ when you took on that role. How was that? Because that's exactly what you said. You had to grow up so quickly. How did you adjust to that? Do you have a community, or did you have any other male role models around that helped you with that journey?
Not really. There's no other male role models around. It was more my aunties, and we all lived close together. So pretty much I've seen these strong women in my life. They've always stuck together, and they are what pulled us all through it. But I guess from having to sort of adapt to become like this man of the house at such a young age. It was difficult. I didn't understand it, obviously. It's only when you look back you think, oh, I remember having to look after my sister and, you know, sit with her, make sure she was okay. And then I remember, you know, cuddling my mum, consoling my mum some nights. You know, she was upset, and it was all this. My mum, you know, she worked her backside off. She was working 3 jobs at one time, I remember. And, you know, one of those was from home. So she'd go out to work, finish there, go to another job, come home and do this other job from home. It was like packing catalogues and magazines and things with all literature. And I remember helping, you know, such a young lad, and helping out. I think that my childhood was, I guess, kind of cut short in the aspect of being a normal sort of normal kid, but I still got to be a kid. I wasn't restricted, and I still went to school, still played with my friends, but I just had a different understanding and a different view on the world, especially parents. You know, you see all these families, happy families, and it's something you long for. Everyone longs for and aspires for. But at that age, my happy family was my mum and my sisters. So that's all that mattered to me then. And then my stepdad came on the scene when I was 11.
Okay, so 4 years after. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was 11. He came on the scene. He's my dad. In my eyes, he's my dad. And
love it.
Yeah, he came on the scene and absolutely changed everything for us. It was a bit tough at the start, obviously.
Adjusting, yeah, I can imagine.
You know, I was this sort of 10, 11-year-old thinking, hang on, this is my turf. Like, who are you? Get out.
Did the work, yeah.
But, you know, other than my mum, he is my role. He's what I aspire to be as a parent all the time. So,
that's amazing.
People have role models of superstars and famous people. For me, it is very much my mum and my dad. So,
you know, in all honesty, in spirit transparency, my role model is my mother. My father is present. He's not in the country. However, growing up, he was physically present in the house, but not present when it came to raising. So, of course, we're trying to make amends now and things like that. However, when people ask me who my role model is, even though I'm a basketball fan, it's not Michael Jordan, it's none of those things, it's my mother. And the same reasons why you said that, the grit and the desire to take on responsibilities that just had to be done. There was a time my mother was doing 3 jobs as well, and we would see her very few small ounces of time in between, and my older brother would have to take up the role. So I also experienced observing my older brother not really being so how do I describe it? He didn't play too much. He was always very serious because he knew he had to make sure we ate. He had to make sure the house was clean, had to make sure mom's food was ready for when she came back from work. And so much of that. And to this day, I speak with him, but you could tell that this is a guy that grew up way beyond, and he's wise because of that. However, you also ask yourself, like, no child should have had to go through that for even a year or 2 years. But granted, they came out great. My brother's come out great, and he's doing well. And that takes me on to the next question, because some young men are in that predicament for the rest of their lives up until they're adults with no other person coming in. What kind of takeaways could you give to young people that are in that single parent home where their mother is their father and their mother? What's your take on that, or what could you impart? What kind of wisdom could you impart on them or support for this time?
It's simple. It's, you know, you think you feel hard done by, you're sad, you're upset.
Yeah.
It's nothing what your mum's going through. Like, your mum is going through all of that and more. So for me, it's about, you know, be respectful. You know, it's not their fault. So if they're at home and they are with you, who's to blame? Because it's not them. They are still there by your side, doing the best they can. And that's what you've got to remember. You know, a lot of people, single parents, mums and dads, they are doing the best they can. And it might not always be right and always seem fair. There's a lot of times as a kid I felt, well, this isn't fair. You know, I should have more. But you look back and you go, well, actually, that was more. Like, that was my mum giving us the best she could. So just remember that they are doing the best they bloody can. The more grief you add to them, you know, it's just adding more heartache. Got to be a team. You've got to be a unit. Got to be. You know, my whole life growing up has been about teamwork, and it's very much that realization from that young age. You all pull together. You've got to all help, because better days will come. Absolutely. You know, so I heard this saying once, and it's so nice. It's, you know, the sun still shines behind the dark clouds. So no matter how dark it is and how bad you feel, the sun is shining behind there. So there is that hope. Clouds will break, the clouds will part. Happy days, you know. You've just got to remember the sun is shining behind the dark clouds.
That's powerful. That's wonderful. The reason why I asked that is because I currently I work with a lot of young people. I worked in the education sector before going corporate.
Okay.
And I still mentor some of those with their parents' permissions or their mother's permissions in many cases. And it's that constant struggle, because they want to talk about it, but they don't know how to talk about the struggles they're going through, because they see their brother going through so much work, having to do extra and extra and extra. They're frustrated within themselves, but they don't know who to be angry at, because some of them don't even know who their fathers are.
Yeah, and you know, getting angry, we've all done it. We've all been there. We all get angry, but the amount of energy that drains from yourself and consumes, you're missing out on a lot more of positivity, a lot more, a lot more happy days. If you're always angry and you just want somebody to blame, you know, first thing I would suggest, and I know it's not easy, but first thing would be look in the mirror. Like, that's where you should start. Like, what are you doing? What's making you so angry? Like, how are you acting with that anger? Because if you're acting out, then you are partly to blame on that. So it's about giving your head a wobble. Give your head a wobble. Real wobble. Yeah. And take a deeper look. We're very quick to point our fingers, aren't we? We're very quick to point the blame. I remember once in my military career, I was blaming someone else and literally pointing my finger, and my instructor at the time was like, well, just stop what you're doing and look. And I was like, I have no idea what you're on about. Like, now you're annoying me. And he said, you're pointing with one finger, but you've got three pointing back. And I was like, yeah, fair one. And that stuck with me, and it's very true. You know, there is the odd occasion where, you know, somebody genuinely is to blame. But then what you do with that, you can either make that transition easy or hard. And anger just consumes. Anger just, you know, it's a dark place to be in, is anger. And, you know, that frustration. You need an outlet. That's absolutely, you know, that's a given. Everyone has their own outlet. Mine's always been music and running. So I tend to headphones on and go for a run or a walk. Just switch off from the world. Sometimes we need to. We need to make that time, don't we, for ourselves.
That's really interesting, because from what you talking about in terms of how you react to circumstances and situations, it brings me on to the next question, because you already mentioned that when your dad stepped into your life and he took on that role, there was a bit of a conflict at first, trying to adjust to it. How were you able to adjust to that? And then what? I'm taking 25 years after, 24 years after. How has that been? How has that journey been?
So the adjustment was, it was tough. It was very tough, because it had been me and my sisters and my mum for so long. You know, and then I remember the day it all clicked for me, and it was my mum had just finished work, and she was able to not work 3 jobs then. So she had just finished work, and she came home, and dinner was made by my dad. We were all sorted, everyone was happy, and my mum looked so happy. And I remember sitting there on the sofa just looking, and I was like, I've not seen like that much joy in my mum's eyes for so long.
How old were you then?
And I thought, so then I would have been, I think I was 12 then. I was 12. So just going into school, and I remember sitting back and going, okay, like if that's what's happening, then it's fine with me, absolutely fine with me. Because as a kid and as a mummy's boy, I always wanted my mum to be happy, always do. And when I seen that moment, I thought, okay, stop being a little bugger and just stop trying to butt heads all the time, and just let go. Be a kid again, be a kid.
That's absolutely beautiful to see, because imagine I can 24 to 23, 24 years ago, that's when you had that epiphany and you still hold on to it. So it's amazing to see how much even you were smiling as you were recollecting that story. And it's so powerful that it's good for people to understand the power of a male role model in the house, in the home. I think it's one of those things where I keep telling my young students, my former students, that just because your family's like this doesn't mean this is normal. This has to be your normal when you grow up. And
yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things, going back to the metaphor you talked about, the sun and the dark clouds. It's exactly like that, because what's right in front of you, you focus so much on it and don't even think about what's in the future. So with that, because now you decided to let go and allow yourself to be a kid and just love your father. What was that like? What was that relationship like?
Well, it was very odd to begin with, because I didn't know how to feel about it all.
Okay.
I was almost then having to sort of share my mum's attention and share with my sisters, and it was just it was just a very good feeling at the start. But once I got past all that, it was amazing. We had so many good times, and with then my new grandparents, and it was just amazing. We had some really good family time, and it was difficult. It wasn't like the happy ever after, that was it, all done. There was still difficult times and dark times and stuff, but that became from pressures of work, from my parents, and then my dad had to go off and work away for a bit, and then it was all quite disjointed, but it was holding on to that, we'll all be back soon, we'll all be back together.
Yeah.
So when you live in that moment, it doesn't feel like it. That's the thing. Like you just said, you focus on what's in front of you. It's bigger picture. You've got to learn to look at bigger picture. Absolutely. And for short-term sacrifice is long-term gain. That's how you should see it. It's that short time. But yeah, it was. Apart from the start of my childhood, when I was then at secondary school, and I used to have some really good banter with my dad, and he used to stitch me up all the time. We always used to play pranks on each other. The worst prank he ever played from a young age was, I remember I went to a football tournament, first ever football tournament at primary school. I was buzzing. I was like, I can't wait. So putting on my kit and then my joggers over my kit, went to the game. The coach was like, right, everyone, like, you take your joggers off, get ready. You've got all your kit on underneath. I remember taking the joggers off, put my hands in my pocket to pull them down, and he had actually put something that belonged to my mum in my pocket. He put a pair of my mum's underwear in my pocket, and I was like, oh God, I thought my hair was red, my face was a lot redder. so embarrassed. Obviously, everyone thought different. Everyone loved it.
They have their moments.
Oh, but I was fuming when I got home, absolutely fuming. But he couldn't keep a straight face. He couldn't talk because he found it hilarious. And I was just like, that kind of started a little prank war, I think.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That is funny. What a way to bond. Because I'm sure that must have been. How did the tournament go though?
The tournament was brilliant. After I got over the embarrassment, yeah, the tournament was really good. So I was on a high from that. And when I got home, I was like, right.
No, that is wonderful. I'm happy to hear that, because I think, like you said, that conflict, a lot of people struggle with that, even at an older age when someone else comes into the family. But I'm happy to see that he made the efforts, clearly from what you're saying, he made the efforts to build that relationship. And that's powerful. Yeah. And with that now takes me to, because when we grow up, a lot of people growing up, they promise themselves, I will never do this. I will never do this. This is what I'll never do when I become a father. This is what I will do. What were the things that you learned from your experience and your ongoing relationship with your father as you proceeded into being a father yourself?
Just to be there, be there. Not you're around, but you're not in that moment. You're not, part of their lives, sitting on a chair. Not involved. My dad's always been involved in everything. Always shown an interest. Whether he's wanted to or not, he's always done it for me. And for my sisters, but for me, it's always been, I've always seen my dad putting the effort in, even when he's tired and exhausted and had a bad day at work. It's always put that effort in, and that's the thing I've learned and took into fatherhood myself. You've got to be present. If you are with your children, be with them, interact, engage with them. And if you're just there and, like most people, they're just on their phones, constant. They're on their phones all the time. I see it when I take my boy now to to one of the parks. I'll be there running around with him or chasing him around, playing whatever game he wants to play. It's normally a Gruffalo. I end up being a Gruffalo, always. But I'm chasing them around, and I see all these other parents sat on benches or on the wall, and they're just on their phone. Their kids are there playing, and you hear it, "Mommy, Daddy, Mommy," and there's nobody looking, or they're looking, but from down here still. So it's being that moment. That the one thing I have took through from my experiences of my dad is that it's be there, be in the moment, because it doesn't happen. I've seen it now. My son's 4, and he's growing up really quick. I'm having more and more conversations with actual meaning, and it's not just talking about poop and it's not just talking about absolute whatever there's going on in their little imaginations, but you can have a conversation with an end result, and you're thinking, wow. I find myself getting told off sometimes by him, and I'm thinking, what just happened? When you walk off and you think, hang on a minute, no, I'm the parent.
Wait a minute.
yeah, you get your own drink. But yeah, so it's definitely that. The biggest thing and advice there to anyone, I guess, is you've got to be receptive. You've got to allow that person, somebody's new is on the scene, you've got to allow them to make an effort and try. You can't just close that door and just put that barrier up, because we're all guilty of building a barrier. But it's only when you allow that person in, you can see the beauty, you can see what it is. And you can be negative and hold on to grudges. It's just going to consume you. That's all it's going to do. So yeah, be receptive. Definitely be in the moment. My dad, even now, we have so much plans, so much fun. We cannot speak for a couple of days, then we'll speak or we'll have a message, and it's just fun. Like there's no it's just so nice. And we live quite a distance away now, so we're all spread out, my sisters and my parents. But it's making that the quality time over quantity. So I don't get to see everybody as much.
Yeah.
But when I do, it's quality time.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's the same with having my boy. So I have him quite a lot. But when I do have him, it's the quality time. I don't want to have him and just be, right, I'm too busy. Yeah, go and sit down, buddy. Go and, you know, watch your iPad, watch the TV. Like, I don't want that all the time. It's not fair on them. You know, we all have that added pressure of work and our own lives to contend with. But in that moment, like I said, be in that moment. That's, you know, you can't get it better than that, because you can miss out on so much.
That is absolutely well said. And I'm a big believer in being present more than just being physically there. Being present is not about location, but about mindset and involvement. But
yeah, 100%.
That is something I always preach on, and it's amazing to hear you say that, because what I always come to this, my qualification was in my degree was in psychology, and I remember when I was in university, we had this story of, it was actually what got me into psychology in A-levels. Prior to uni, my psychology teacher told us about this story where there were two guys that grew up in a household where the father was a drunkard and abusive, and both of them grew up. One eventually had a happy home with a great relationship with his kids and wife. The other ended up in prison being a drunkard and abusive. And they asked, an interviewer followed the case study over a couple of years and asked both of them, why do you think you ended up the way you did? They both had the same answers. What would you do if your father was a drunkard and abusive? They had the same upbringing, but two different directions. And it's about that making an active choice. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you made a choice to let your father in. You also made a choice to be better than your biological father was. And it's really proof that how you start is not how you should finish, or you can change 100%. That. And it takes 100%. Me on to this next thing, because we were talking about it prior to just starting now, about the recent movie that came out in terms of fatherhood and the kind of attention that's given to single parent fathers. And we know that the media doesn't really cover it so much because it's more so something on the side. How have you adjusted to being a single parent father, and what does that feel like? What's your day-to-day in terms of your reasoning around that?
So adjusted, I think. So when I met my ex, like I said, she had a 6-week-old baby.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I actually met, I still met her quite young, the baby. I then basically raised her. She's now 5, nearly 6.
Yeah.
We still have that relationship. It's amazing. She is my stepdaughter. That's it. To the point. So she started calling me Pappy from a young age. So I made the choice to make my son call me Pappy. So there was no confusion. So I see them both as the same. It's just that I have my son on a 1-to-1. I think it was tough. It was tough becoming that sole parent, that sole person of responsibility. And so I have my son 3 days a week, plus every Saturday morning and every Sunday morning, because I take him to football on a Sunday morning, and Saturday morning we normally go off and go to a park or whatever, and then every other weekend. So I have him a lot. But trying to balance those days with working full time. So I work from home anyway.
Yeah.
And then my head office is actually in Australia. So, sometimes I've got late nights, early mornings if I'm trying to catch a certain member of the team or a conference call or something. So it's balanced. I don't think I can ever get it right, and that's that. And it's just, again, like I said earlier, you've got to think bigger picture. So there are times where I've got my son and I say, I can't play. I've got to get this finished, or I've got to do this. But I know as soon as I've done that, I'm all his. And the next day will be better because I'll have more time to dedicate to having him. But yeah, what an adjustment, honestly. An eye-opener, that's for sure. And it's just, for a very long time, I forgot how to be Ady. I forgot how to be me. And my focus was just my son and my job. My son, my job, my son, job. And there was no me time. I felt guilty if, for the nights I didn't have my son, I felt guilty if I was doing anything, because I was like, I should be having my son, or there's other things I should be doing, not going to the gym, going to play football, going to meet this friend, that friend. I always felt guilty at the start. But then it was actually my mum who said, "He'll be okay. He will be okay. If you're busy and you've got to do something, do it. That he will be okay." And from that moment, I realised that actually, yeah, he will. He's got enough people around him that love him. So if for that one day the plan changes and I can't have him, he's fine. He's fine. I've got to accept he's good. He's not going to be sat in a corner just waiting for me. He'll be fine. But yeah, I think I love it. I love being a dad. Absolutely. I just love it. It's you get to mold this little person that you're responsible for molding them. That's it. What they see in you is what they will remember and aspire to be like I was as a young age. And we forget sometimes that little person is looking up to you, whether it's you as a dad or if you are the male influence in their life. They are looking up to you. So carry yourself with that, with that respect, and just be happy, because it honestly, it does rub off. It does rub off. When I was going through the dark times and sort of in my relationship, I wasn't myself, and I knew my son and little girl were picking up on that. I wasn't the fun, happy pappy. I wasn't that guy. I was very short-tempered, quick to snap, and then you sort of have this reaction, and then you step back and you go, what have I done that for? Like, you go, why? They're just kids. They're just asking for this. Like, but as a parent and as an adult, times get tough. Times do get tough and testing. But we get through it. You get through it. There's always another day.
That's, and I'm happy that you admitted that it can be tough, because I think 100%. With a lot of it is that in general, men, a lot of the guests I've had, we've talked about acceptance of realities that we face, being vulnerable, being transparent. And unfortunately, in the male demographic, we don't do enough of that. We tend to just act like, no, it's okay, brush off the shoulders. But these are things that people need to know, and it kind of gives people peace to hear that, because I'm sure I know a few single fathers that'll be listening to this, and just to reassure them that it's okay to have those challenging times, but like you said, having the bigger picture.
Yeah, there's no manual, there's no app for being the best dad in the world. But from a dad's perspective, because I know a lot of amazing mums, and don't discredit them at all, like, in the slightest. But from a man's side, it's you're right. We don't go, yeah, that's tough, or actually, I need help. I'm struggling here. We tend to, as men, just go, yeah, it's all good. I'm okay. It's all good. But inside, it's just eating away. Yeah. And it's you should never listen to somebody else telling you how to be a parent, how to be a dad, how to be a husband, how to be a brother, whatever. There's no right or wrong. You will learn your own way, and we all go through tough times. If anybody says, oh, it's amazing, it's so easy, it's incredible, Utter lies. Honestly, we have emotion, and that's the thing. As a man, we've got to remember we have emotion, and we have feelings. It's not as easy for us to show that because of society. That's the bread and butter. It's not seen as an acceptable way to behave as a man. Be upset, then you're told you're depressed, but you're not. Sometimes you're craving somebody to say, what's wrong? But are you receptible to go, okay, you've asked, so here it comes? Because we tend to think, I'm not going to share this with that person because it's too much. But it's never too much. Never. If any single dads are watching this and they are going through those sort of times, you'd be amazed how many people are feeling exactly the same. But you are the only person that can make that change. You have to take that first step by saying, help me, like, somebody help me. There's no shame in that whatsoever. You're actually a better dad, a better human being for asking for that help, because it takes a lot of courage, a lot. There's so many avenues for women to talk about their feelings, their emotions. There's not that many for men.
Oh, not many. So with that then, for those listeners, or as well as those that are still on the journey and haven't quite had the privilege of becoming fathers yet, what would you say? First of all, let's take that back. You said that it's always important to ask for help. Where does your support system come from? And what could you suggest to those listening that may be in the same situation?
So support is obviously, first and foremost, it's friends and family.
Yeah.
If that's available, it's available. If not, there's lots of charities out there. There's lots of great organisations that will just listen. There will be that listening ear. Because sometimes to vent, to get it all off your chest, is such a release. It's not just going round and round in circles. An analogy I've once heard is that we're a fizzy drink, we're a can, and we're just being shaken and shaken and shaken. When we open that lid, there's only one way, and that's an explosion. So you've got to pop holes in the side, let a little bit out here and there. It's never going to get to that point then where it explodes. And it's very much that. There are so many options out there. We live in a day of technology and internet. So go on the internet, get somebody to search a group for you, a phone number. The podcasts like these are amazing. There's all these different avenues just to listen and go, okay, he's feeling exactly like I felt, and this worked for him. What works for me may be different for yourself, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But unless you're willing to try, you won't know. So yeah, definitely reach out to anybody. There's so many groups that we don't know about, but things like this and getting on and speaking, opening up, doesn't make you weak in the slightest. Absolutely. In the slightest. It makes you a lot stronger, because first and foremost, you're admitting, you're going, okay, I have no idea what's going on here. Somebody help. Somebody guide me. But that's all they can do, is guide you. Nobody can tell you how to be a parent, be a dad. If you're expecting a child, get ready, because it's a whirlwind of emotion, but it's so magical. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing that you've done, and you've created this life. So nourish that life. You've got to. You have a duty of care. You have a responsibility, and that's what a lot of people forget. They do the good thing, they have their fun, and then go, I'm out. No responsibility for me.
Unfortunately.
And it's so sad, but you have a responsibility. So take it. Mm-hmm. Go full throttle, head on. But yeah, I think reach out. That's the best bit, is reach out. I wish I had all this thing to my knowledge when I was going through, my breakup and some really dark time. I wanted to reach out and speak to people, but I found myself saying to my friends, they'd be like, "Are you okay, mate?" And I'll be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. But then I'd get in my car, I'd drive, I'd be crying, I'd be so upset. Or I find myself putting my headphones in, trying to switch off, and I'd run for miles, like Boris Gump style, just keep running.
Wow, fitness.
And I'd get to a point where I go, well, first of all, how am I going to get back? I've run too far, like my legs aren't working. But it's that realization of, wow, I obviously need some sort of release here, because it's just eating me up. I became ill. I had a breakdown, and I was at the point through my dark times. I was at the point because I didn't accept it. I didn't really speak to people. I thought, I'll take it on my shoulders. That's it. It's fine. And it hit me one day, and I pulled over in a lay-by. I was going to leave my car and just disappear. That was my plan. I remember I was going to walk to the train station, jump on a train to anywhere, and just vanish. That's it. I was gone. But I sat down. I had a good cry, and it's okay to cry. It really is.
Tell them again.
And I had this realization that I can't do that to my kids. I can't disappear. And it was that I have a responsibility here. And it was that moment I gave my head a wobble, and I was like, right, sleeves up, I've got it, let's go. And then I reached out, then I started opening up, and like I said, there was a lot of tears every day. But you know what, the sun broke through the clouds, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy now. I'm in a really good place, and it's only because I've gone through that dark time and struggling and testing. But hey, I chose not to give up. That's the best thing. Absolutely. Push on through.
That is powerful. And for those listening, please, again, just don't let that slip by, because I think it's so important that you understand and you accept, admitting, like you said, admitting that it's not easy, that it's tough, admitting that you need help, admitting that you're struggling, and reaching out for help. Family members and loved ones, if they're not directly available, there's charities, like you said, and there's more work now it brings me so much joy that I'm seeing more work being done for men's mental health, because that's a key factor that has always puzzled me, why there wasn't enough work being done. However, it's even if you can't reach out to those people, there is always someone available. And it's just about you opening up, because you'd be surprised who wants to help. You'd be surprised who in your circle or your network is actually able to help. So just trusting that, yes, someone will listen, and it is possible to get support through this, because you don't have to suffer alone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's no reason anybody should suffer alone or in silence. We all have a voice, and it's about using it.
Absolutely.
You are the only person that can make that step, though. It can't be forced. So make that step. Like you said, reach out. A friend and I, we do something very similar. We do a podcast, and it's some of the guests that have come on with us, and the stories, you just
I'm telling you,
it takes so much courage to open up and share. It shows so much vulnerability, and long gone are the days, and this is what people need to realize. Long gone are the days, the old taboo of men and being men, like bravado. Yeah, we're good. We're men. We can't show emotion. That day's gone. We are in a new world, and people need to realize that, men and women. They need to accept that their partner needs to vent. Their partner, both ways. You need that release. You need to still be you. But what better way to open up and show that vulnerability to somebody? Honestly, it's such a good feeling. I've done it, and you feel relieved to have said what's on your mind, what's troubling you.
Yeah.
You feel so much relief from it. It's incredible. So yeah, reach out 100%.
And it's great that you linked into it. And guys, I said at the beginning, I definitely want you guys to check it out. Nobody cares about that. You guys are alive on Podbean, but I know that you're definitely on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You also have a blog, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Facebook page, and Instagram.
But I'll definitely put the descriptions. I'll definitely put those links in the description section.
Perfect.
However, just before we round up now, if people wanted to reach out to you, how could they get in touch with you?
On Facebook, that'd be the easiest way. I think majority of the world has Facebook.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but yeah, also on, like you've mentioned, on all those sites, which you're very kind of you to share the links. But yeah, get on there. So if you're going through Facebook, just send us a message. Marco Carlucci is the guy that I do it with. So he actually started this, and I was his first guest.
Oh, nice.
So he interviewed me January, but we had such an amazing response from it. We thought, hang on a minute, let's do this. Let's talk about this more. And it's men's mental health. It's called Nobody Cares About Dad, because that's quite often the case. It's all the focus on mums, and are they happy? Like Father's Day's just been and gone. For me, I went to my mum and dad's for Father's Day. I had a really cute morning with my little boy. He's very, very tentative to helping me in the morning. He wanted to carry my breakfast for me. He wanted to make my bed for me. 4 years old, yeah. He's very trust me, he looks like a 6-year-old. He's a big lad.
That's a
he's very tall. But yeah, so I went to my mum and dad's, and it was quite lonely in the sense of the journey up there. There wasn't a big fuss being created and all that. And then I got to see my dad, and we were there for my dad, and we had a really good time. But it does hit home that nobody cares about dad, because so many people think dads are okay. They don't really want to be showed love. They don't really want gifts. They don't really want to be told, hey, I love you, or you're doing a great job. We do it, and I like to think we do it a lot the other way. And we're always reminding people how well they're doing, and they're doing amazing this and amazing that. But so are the guys. So it's about the mental health and the stigma of mental health. There's been loads, like this past year, there's been so much about mental health. So much. One thing that annoyed me was that week we had Mental Health Awareness Week. Okay. And it annoyed me because I was thinking, why is it a week? Like, it doesn't stop. After this week, you don't see anything else on TV. You don't see anything, other adverts popping up or people talking about it, because people have gone, oh no, we've recognised it for that week. Hey, mental health's been going on a lot longer than we've been around.
A lifetime thing,
yeah. So yeah, reach out. We're always happy to chat. And some people we've had message us and just vent. They don't really want to come on the show. They don't want to speak. They just vent. And we've had other people say they'd love to come on, but it would actually cause more trouble for them to come on in terms of them being able to see their children.
Okay.
Than it's worth. And that's wrong. That's wrong in itself. That you can't, because not everybody, but you hear a lot of cases of mums holding the cards. Mums will dictate when you can be a dad, when you can't, what you can do, what you can't do. Like, no, you need to get that mutual ground and go, it's not about us anymore. It's what's right for that little child, what's right for them.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, just reach out, honestly, like what you're doing as well, and what you speak about and what you cover. It's incredible. And the work you do, especially with mentoring and things, it's nice to know that is happening, that still happens. We all come from different walks of life. So to be able to share with each other, you make new friends every day.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking on so much of what you shared. If we had more time, I would even go into more about the whole mutual ground thing. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that needs
honestly,
to be addressed.
There's so much negativity in the world right now, and there's a lot of people pointing blame at everybody else. If you are going through a really horrible time with an ex-partner, take a step back, reassess what's important. It's not about you paying more money so they can wear more fancy clothes and things. It's what's right for that little child. Me and my ex, very fortunate, we get on. We have that mutual ground. We always said we wanted to remain as friendly as possible, as friends, or as close to as you can get. But we have the same interest. We have the same interest. It's the well-being and the welfare of the kids, and that's how it should be. I've never speak bad of their mum, and especially in front of them. Kids are sponges. Remember that.
So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. You think they're switched off? No. They're listening. They are listening.
That's powerful. Guys, definitely, if you didn't think about reaching out, definitely reach out now. Nobody cares about that. If you have a story, like you said, if you just want to vent, if you just want to have someone to talk to, send them a message on IG or whatever platforms that you're going to be seeing in the descriptions. Get in touch, because it's okay to talk about these things, and you don't have to feel silenced because you're a dad or because no one shares a lot of the stories that you're going through. But just let's talk about this. And it's important to have communities, build the right communities. And with that, Ady, just any final words? Because I know we're really tight for time in terms of your commitment for the day.
No, so I'd say, just remember that something I was always told. So when I finished my military life, I remember being told that, the darkest days and all of this, you've got to remember you are 6 feet above right now. You're not 6 feet below, you're 6 feet above.
Yeah.
So make it count. Make it count. Don't waste your time being resentful and bitter, carrying grudges. Put it to bed and get on with life, because you don't know what's around look at the pandemic. You don't know what's around the corner. Time is valuable, but it's something you control.
That's a mic drop moment. That's powerful. That's excellent. That's an excellent way to end it. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've got me thinking about so much more right now, and I really appreciate you coming with us on the podcast.
Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for having me on. It's been really good, and thank you very much for everything you're doing as well.
Thank you for being you, and because that includes everything that you do, both the ones that are seen and the ones that aren't seen. Thank you so much for your time, buddy.